Sunday Cool channel. Update on the red heifer sacrifice in Israel. Ninjas are butterflies. Want to check this out and see whether the conversation is actually being had in a way where there's honoring of the biblical text going on, or is it like quite a bit of hearsay? So, such and such teacher says such and such a thing. So let's have him take it away, and then we'll come back and comment on it.
Okay.
We have an update on the red heifer.
Did you guys plan that?
No. Yeah, we
Wow.
did. We need to start doing that with. Speaking of the red heifer, your mom is so dumb.
Okay, I just want to say that this guy gets an L in my book first and foremost. I'm just going to give him an L without getting into the conversation for a couple of reasons. One, what's up with the whole hair tie thing here? That's his hair. It's not his beard. I don't know what's going on here. But the one that I was going to mention initially was, I think he's wearing an Mbappe shirt. Unless this is a old Zinedine Zidane shirt, but I'm pretty sure this is an Mbappe shirt. So I'm going to give an L for that because I'm not a fan.
They have. That was on the CBS News. When this comes out, it would have been a week ago. But they have built the altar on the Mount of Olives, overlooking where the temple it was. And what they expressed on the CBS News thing was that I don't think I can say the name without us getting flagged, but hummus.
Okay.
Y'all know what that
I was about to correct you because I'm such a...
No, it's but one of the major reasons what they said, what has come out, is one of the major reasons that they attacked in October Israel was because of the red heifers. And
who's they? Sorry, who's they? Okay, so whenever we hear stuff like that, right? They said, I want to know who they are, because that's a pretty serious statement, right? The Gaza government attacked Israel because of this whole, like, who said this? Did anybody come out and say this is the reason why we did it? Because I haven't heard anything. I always want to know who they are.
Basically, because the Dome of the Rock sits on the Temple Mount right now, and by doing this sacrifice of the red heifers, it is basically an all-out threat of being like, we're going to get rid of the Dome of the Rock and rebuild the temple. And then the hummus Muslims were just like, no way. And I just thought that was very interesting.
Yeah, that's wild, man. That's a whole different narrative.
Yeah. So
if that was the case, you have to realize, by the way, let me just break something down here. Let me just break something down, guys. Just give me your attention for a couple of seconds. If that's actually the case, you realize that the Dome of the Rock is probably the second most holy site in all of Islam. That this wouldn't be an issue that was only had by the government in Gaza, but this would be an issue that Muslims would have around the world. All of them. So again, if this is true, what he's saying, why would only the authority in Gaza have an issue with that and not every single Muslim on the planet, considering you're thinking about getting rid of the Dome of the Rock? Do you realize what you're saying? This is partly like when it comes to this, and again, no idea what it is. When it comes to this sort of stuff and rhetoric, and you post this stuff online, and look, this video has 439,000 views 7 days ago. People spread this stuff. You gotta speak about it a bit more clearly.
go ahead. What?
How does the process work? So it's the sacrifice of a perfect red heifer, and then directly following that, scripturally, we're meant to go and rebuild the temple?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
No. Scripturally, who? Christians? No. Jesus has done away with the temple. Christians should not in any way, if people in Israel want to rebuild the temple, Christians should stay away from being engaged in that by any stretch of the imagination. Do you understand what kind of what kind of a disservice, what kind of a curse upon the sacrifice of Jesus you will be talking about if you participate in the rebuilding of the temple where they will reinstitute the sacrificial system? Christians should stay away from any kind of involvement. If it happens, Christians should stay away completely from the rebuilding of the temple or anything that has remotely to do with a reinstitution of the sacrificial system. Jesus is the sacrifice. He's the final sacrifice. He's done away with the old covenant. And that which he has done away with has become obsolete. Go read the book of Hebrews, Christians.
So it's the cleansing of the instruments and tools, and the people that are going to build the temple are cleansed with the ashes of the sacrificed red heifer.
Yeah,
Interesting.
Not we are meant to.
No,
you,
no, no.
Andrew, are meant to.
No.
Andrew, please.
It's my
Yeah.
2 weeks.
But yeah, I thought that was really crazy.
It's kind of one of those things where when you were telling me about it for the first time, I was like, I've never heard this. This is crazy.
Yeah,
And
and
then
that's
suddenly to see it on CBS, I'm like, that's
Yeah.
weird.
So
I know.
what are the like potential implications of this being enacted?
what,
Second coming.
say that one more time.
The implications. What's going to happen as soon as the heifer is sacrificed? Like how? Like what is the series of events that you think are going to start unfolding?
I think it's already started unfolding, and I think that's with the conflict that's happening right now. I think it's going to reach a point to where there is this is pure speculation.
Yeah.
I think there's going to be a point to where the Jerusalem comes under attack, and that's where the Temple Mount is potentially destroyed.
Right.
And then that gives the Israelites, they'll be like, now that we are winning this war or retaliation, no one from Palestine or whatever is allowed in Israel. We're going to rebuild the Temple Mount or the temple.
Yep.
That's just my speculation of what could happen because the conflict is crazy over there right now.
right?
Dude.
But with that happening, it's going to be
Hey, sorry, bro, but this sounds like you watched Left Behind. Like seriously. Again, notice that there's zero Bible coding. Zip. That's important when you get people talking about biblical end times prophecies, the second coming of Christ. You need your Bible, and you need it open, and you got to code it, and you got to code it in context, and you got to understand the theological implications of what you're saying, all of that.
because the Dome of the Rock is completely sacred to the Muslim faith.
Yep.
And if that's destroyed, you will not only have every Muslim nation,
Yeah.
you'll have every Muslim in the world
Really?
opposed to Israel. And so it will be, it will be
My
like,
point exactly when it comes to, the Gaza leadership decided to attack. If that's public news, they said, whoever they are, then they would all be up in arms over it.
A world war in that way.
well, it'll be
Yeah.
like the Battle of Armageddon, which talks about all the nations rising up against Israel. But then,
Oh my gosh.
yeah. But then, there's, according to end time prophecy stuff, there's going to be a,
Never trust something like that. According to end times prophecy stuff, number one, there are multiple views on end times prophecies in the Bible. There's different Christian opinions on what that even looks like. Okay, so number two, again, like I said, you're going to get a statement like that, you want the Bible coded.
Antichrist who is at the temple, and there will be a treaty signed with Israel and the nations, a peace treaty, and I think it's like a 7 years.
Sorry, but this is left behind. Like it really is.
Of peace between these nations, and then it's just like boom, 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 boom. Not good.
And what we don't know is at what point the believers are taken up
Yeah.
in that 7 years. Some
Yeah.
people think they know, but I don't think we know.
No, I don't.
I don't know any.
So yeah, it seems to me that girl, I don't know anything about these guys, but it seems to me that they might be Christians or new to Christianity or dabbling with it and a certain form of it. Again, dispensationalism would be a part of that conversation. At one point, the idea is if you're a dispensationalist and a premillennial when it comes to your eschatology or end times views, that either you're going to be taken up before the rapture, in the middle of the rapture, or at the end of the not the rapture. You're going to get raptured before the tribulation, in the middle of the tribulation, or at the end of the tribulation.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
It's all scary.
but this really. Oh, by the way, it was Faith and Friction is a podcast. They were on Blurry Creatures. Those were the dudes that were with the rabbis picking out the red heifer, and they hit us up on Instagram.
No way.
We're gonna I'm gonna talk to them, but it'd be really cool to get them on the podcast.
Or we could go to them and go to Austin and stuff and get some barbecue.
Or that.
Let's do that.
Some
Let's go eat some red heifer.
comedy shows.
Yeah.
Let's do that. Let's do
There's a
that.
lot of things we could do in Austin.
Okay, we're going.
Faith and Friction, their podcast. They I haven't listened to much of it, but they seem like really, really cool dudes.
Yeah, that's awesome.
But what I was saying with this subject, I came across a video yesterday, and I'm like, yo, it was not a Christian-based video. It was just like a factual, this is what's happened.
Mm-hmm.
Have you ever heard of the Rebbe? The Rebbe.
No.
So this man, his name was. I apologize for the pronunciation of this stuff.
You just even said
But-
pronunciation. The mispronounced pronunciation.
Pronunciation. What did I say?
You said pronunciation. Pronunciation.
Is that not what you say?
Pronunciation.
Whatever.
Desolation.
But these are like Hasidic Jew names.
Okay. Yeah.
So I might completely butcher them. But this man's name is Menachem Mendelson.
That sounds right.
Cool.
Nailed it.
Menachem
try again.
Mendelson. But he was born in Ukraine in the early 1900s, lived in Germany, fled Germany during World War II, came to New York, and basically started this sect of Orthodox Judaism and became, I think, it's called the Chabad. And it's one of the world's best known Hasidic movements. It is one of the largest Hasidic groups, as well as one of the largest Jewish religious organizations in the world. So this man was the rabbi of it.
Okay.
And his influence within politics and stuff was insane. Like every president knew about this man and like respected him and like all that jazz. But he became a mentor and friend of Netanyahu in 1984. And at this time, Netanyahu was Israel's U.S. ambassador. And he would like go to like the UN and stuff. And so this guy was just being a mentor to him. And it got to a point to where there was this clip to where the Rebbe was speaking to Netanyahu. This was in the 80s. And he said, this is quote, "Since we last met, many things have progressed. What hasn't changed, however, is that the Messiah still hasn't come. So do something to hasten his coming." And then Netanyahu said, we're doing. And then he cuts him off. He says, apparently it's not enough since many hours have passed today and he's still not here. So he said that to
What does that
Netanyahu.
mean though?
Well, this is where, then a couple of years later, when they met up again and they're talking, he told Netanyahu that he would one day become prime minister of Israel and be the nation's last leader before handing the scepter to the Messiah. Completely random. And this was, like, Netanyahu was not prime minister, but the Rebbe said, you will become prime minister and you will be the nation's last leader before the Messiah comes.
I wonder if there's a video of that
Real
actually being
polarizing.
like, or is it just like rumor?
Mhm.
But is it possible we are Christians and we believe that Jesus is the Messiah?
I believe it would be the false Messiah.
Antichrist.
Yeah, I do. But then
So okay, they claim to be Christians. She seems to understand some stuff more than him. But yeah, it's good to know.
in 1994, the Rebbe dies, and his followers actually believe, to this day, I'm pretty sure from the interviews I saw, they believe that he is going to come back as the Messiah.
The Rebbe?
The Rebbe, who died in 1994.
There's a lot of red flags.
Yeah. But then in 1996, Netanyahu becomes the prime minister of Israel.
Right.
But that only
As
lasted.
foretold in the prophecy.
But then that only lasted for 3 years. So then everyone who heard the Rebbe say like, "Oh, you're going to be the last leader," so they're like, "Oh, that was
Yeah.
not true."
But Netanyahu is a current.
I'm getting there.
Oh, sorry.
2009 became prime minister for the second time, which lasted 12 years and was elected out in 2021. But then a few months later, he was reinstated as prime minister, and this time he fully aligned himself with the ultra orthodox and the Zionists, which is basically the far right political side of Israel.
Mhm.
I saw one thing, it was like Wikipedia, it called them like ultra nationalists. So they're very like their mindset, the far right Zionists. I'm not going to speak for all of them, but a lot of them are very anti-Palestinian residing within Israel, which is it's starting to make sense of like if we're talking about the temple being rebuilt and the Muslims having claim of the Dome of the Rock on the Temple Mount, the Zionist party wants that out of there. And Netanyahu, since being reelected in 2022, has definitely aligned himself with the Zionist party.
Yeah, and if it gets touched, war.
Yes.
Okay.
100%.
A
Yeah,
holy
so
war.
everything's kind of that's kind of crazy though. Like to say like I'm gonna be the last leader, and then suddenly they're like, oh, he's not. It's full of it, and then
Three
suddenly,
times.
and then later, boom.
For
yeah.
conflict to reach this fever pitch.
Yeah. It's terrible what's happening over there right now, but it's like,
Awful.
but so I say all that just to be like, yo, just be ready for anything.
Be ready.
It'll
But
be interesting to see how it plays out.
Again, my general thought on this has been, and even when I was premillennial in my eschatology, which I'm not anymore, but I'm not as closed off to it. Like it could be true. I just don't think it is. It's like when I was a premillennialist and I would think about the whole rebuilding of the temple, sacrificial system, I still maintain the position where Christians shouldn't be involved in any of that stuff. That let people do whatever they're going to do, and if that means they are, without realizing, acting in accordance to the plans of God to bring about certain events, then that's on them. But Christians should not be encouraged to support this stuff. In my mind, Christians should not be in any way encouraged to support this stuff financially or in any other way. Because this is a theological matter. Christ is the end all of the sacrificial system. Christians should not participate in it, regardless of what your TBN televangelists have been telling you for years. They don't know what they're talking about. I think that's pretty much clearly the case.